Hi, welcome to Liberty Park Music. I'm Michelle Huang, your piano instructor. In our lesson today, we'll be talking about a new piano technique called thumb crossing. This thumb crossing technique will help us move from position to position on the keyboard without lifting our hands or discontinuing our sound. We will practice this technique by looking at several short exercises for both the left hand and the right hand, as well as two short pieces by Turk. If you remember from a piece we talked about in the last lesson, pianists, the next to the last measure on the right hand is an example of thumb crossing technique. As you can see here, after playing 2 and 1, the entire hand using the thumb as a pivot swings over the thumb, plays E, and resume a new position. This is an example of thumb crossing technique. Thumb crossing technique is very helpful when we want to navigate a keyboard with 5 fingers, but still want to connect the notes together. It's a way of shifting position without having to pick up your hands and interrupt the sound. There are 2 ways the thumb can be crossed. One is that thumb goes under other fingers. One is the other fingers cross over the thumb. Let's talk about how each works. For this exercise, we will cross the thumb under finger number 3. As we play each note, the thumb follows right behind the note that it's playing. Keeping a natural hand position, so the thumb has room to move about below the other fingers. As we play the 3rd note, keeping a balanced weight on the 3rd finger, using it as the pivot as the thumb swings past the 3rd finger, transferring the weight from the 3rd finger to the thumb as the rest of the fingers follow. And now we move into the new position. Practice this a few times yourself to get comfortable with the motion. Now we will cross over the thumb. Here, after playing the first 2 notes, we will balance our weight on the thumb. Using it as the pivot this time, swing the rest of the hand over the thumb, shifting away from the thumb to the 3rd finger as we move into the new position. For both thumb crossing techniques, it's important to remember transferring the weight from the finger that you're pivoting to the next finger in one fluid gesture, so there is no break or interruption of sound. Be careful not to collapse your hand position during thumb crossing. This will produce unwanted accents. Also, avoid twisting your elbows during thumb crossing. This will disrupt the alignment of your hand and wrist and also interrupts the flow of the music. exercise combines both crossing the thumb under and crossing over the thumb. Here we start right off the bat with finger number 3. Go ahead and play the first note, balancing the weight on that third finger. Using it as a pivot as the thumb swings past the third finger. Transferring the weight from the third finger to the thumb as the rest of the fingers follow. Playing G and F. Now, quickly balancing our weight on the thumb, using it as the pivot this time, swing the rest of the hand over the thumb, shifting the weight from the thumb to the third finger. Stay in this position for now. Notice that the next note is played by the thumb. Since your thumb is already there, no need to pivot on the third finger this time. Just keep your thumb tucked and play the note, but still feeling the transferring of the weight from the third finger to the thumb. Let's try a similar exercise for the left hand. Remember to think of pivoting and transferring weight from the third finger to the thumb and the thumb to the third finger. Remember not to collapse your hand position as you pivot, and also not to twist your elbows as you do these thumb crossing exercises. Now, let's take a look at 2 short pieces by Turk to get more practice of the thumb crossing technique. In this piece, you'll see that there are a few places, mostly on the right hand, where we would need to cross the thumb under and crossing over the thumb. Let's look at the first 4 measures in the right hand. We will pause when we get to the place where crossing over the thumb is involved and review how to execute the technique. Remember, we're in D major, so all F's and C's are sharped. If there are no indicated fingerings written above a note, use the next most natural fingers to play the note. Here, in order to continue downwards and play the rest of the note, we will need to cross over the thumb to extend and shift position without breaking the sound. So the thumb here will act as the pivot. The third finger swings over the thumb. As the third finger plays the next note, the weight is shifted from the thumb to the third finger. The thumb slides under 3 and 2 and resumes the lower position. And now we can play the rest of the passage. Let's do that again. The next 4 measures require that we move from D major position to A major position. Here, we need to cross the thumb under because if we don't, we will run out of fingers to play the notes in measure 6. As we play 2 and 3, the thumb follows right behind each note that is playing. Keeping a natural hand position so the thumb has room to move about below the other fingers. As we play the third note, keeping a balanced weight on the third finger, using it as the pivot as the thumb swings past the third finger, transferring the weight from the third finger to the thumb. As the rest of the fingers follow, and now we move into the new position. Here, we will pivot on the thumb, and the 2 will cross over the thumb, transferring the weight from the thumb to the second finger, and finish the piece with the third finger. Let's play the right hand in its entirety once. Remember not to collapse your hand or twist your elbows when crossing the thumb under or crossing over the thumb. Before we put hands together, let's just play the left hand once. Left hand has a fairly sparse texture, no fingering is given to you. But go ahead and pause the video and spend a few minutes to figure out the fingerings for this left hand first. The tricky thing about putting hands together in this piece is not only that we have to be concerned with where we need to cross the thumb under or over, but also making sure that the left hand comes in at the right time with the right hand. A good way to practice this is to play silently away from the keyboard once to get the choreography right between the two hands, but using the right fingerings and rhythms. Let's try it on the fallboard. Again, we're not concerned about the actual notes, but just the general direction the notes are going, the fingerings, and how the right hand and left hand line up with each other. Practice this a few times until you feel comfortable that the left hand knows exactly when to come in while the right hand is playing. What this is doing is building a muscle memory of the passage so it becomes more automatic when you play the actual notes. Now we'll play the actual notes. probably a good idea to practice this in small chunks, perhaps 4 measures at a time, until you feel comfortable putting hands together. For your homework, take a look at Turk's A Nice Man on Your Own. A few observations. Like the previous piece, this one also involves a few places where you will need to either cross the thumb under or crossing over the thumb. Find where those places are first, circle them, and practice them in isolation. As you can see on the score, unlike the previous piece, most of the thumb crossing will involve 2 and 1, not 3 and 1. Most of the thumb crossing will be in the left hand, with the exception of one place in the right hand. Just a few reminders about thumb crossing. Remember to transfer your weight from the pivoting finger to the next finger. Avoid collapsing your hand position to avoid unwanted accents. Also avoid twisting your elbow to keep the flow of the music. Several practice tips. Practice slowly and silently away from the piano, hands together to train muscle memory. You can do this on your table or on the fallboard of the piano. Practice in small chunks, 2 to 4 measures at a time. Here is what A Nice Man sounds like. In our lesson today, we learned a new piano technique called thumb crossing. This technique allows us to move from position to position on the keyboard without having to lift our hands or discontinue the sound. In your homework, you'll find a few more exercises to help you practice this technique. Also continue to work on the 2 short pieces by Turk that we have talked about in the lesson today to get more practice of the thumb crossing technique.